Today, you can't go online for 5 minutes without seeing Patrick Bateman, but there's a good reason that so many people look at him and think, that's literally me, because no other character makes the conflict in the modern male psyche so clear. He represents everything that men want and that society values: looks, charisma, wealth, and status. And yet on the inside, he's a monster, narcissistic, jealous, brutally violent, and detached from everyone around him. So why do so many men see a reflection of themselves in him? Well, let's dive straight in and ask ourselves why men love Patrick Bateman. If you've seen American Psycho, you'll know that Patrick Bateman is the spitting image of a vapid yuppie, a young professional in the finance industry, desperately conforming to the shallow social norms. Even in his own words, he's defined by the expensive apartment he owns, the suit he wears, his haircut, and his job. Every morning he spends hours dedicated entirely to his appearance. In the movie, the scene lasts minutes. In the book, this regimen takes over 2 pages to explain, and yet despite all of this, he's only the appearance. He's his lotion and his moisturizer. As he says,
I simply am not there.
At work, Patrick is the vice president of a large investment bank, a job given to him by his father. He does nothing, spending his time watching TV and getting his secretary to book dinner reservations. His fiancée is having an affair, but so is Patrick. He spends his evenings having dinner at high-class restaurants, hiring prostitutes, and murdering people. All of his colleagues and friends are all the same person, down to the haircuts they have, the suits they wear, the credit cards they use, and the things they say. They're so similar they can barely tell each other apart. One of Patrick's colleagues completely believes he's Marcus Halberstram.
Hello, Halberstram. Nice tie.
Alan has mistaken me for this dickhead Marcus Halberstram.
Another yuppie at their bank. It's because they wear the same suits, have the same haircut, and have the same glasses, that's what makes up their images of each other. Everybody in postmodern New York is motivated only by material wealth and status. It dominates every part of Patrick's life, from his opening monologue to the final scenes of the film. When he's clearly disposing of a body and happens to meet a friend on the street, they ask about the bag he's using, rather than what he's doing. They all use the same credit cards and have shallow discussions where they virtue signal about social issues.
We have to promote general social concern. Less materialism.
Patrick is desperate to fit in and conform, to gain the approval and notice of these people. He says it himself when his wife asks him why he doesn't just quit.
Because I want to fit in.
When he thinks that one of his friends has gotten something over him, like a better business card or a reservation at Dorsia, it fuels even more of his jealousy. Bateman lives in a fake world, surrounded by people who only care about things with no actual value. In many ways, it mirrors our own world even more than the era it was originally satirizing, as our current world today is just simply getting faker. The ways we communicate with each other online, broadcasting our lives to algorithms, commodifying emotions, and turning them into one-dimensional products, makes for an atomized, empty culture. It's almost impossible to get a real sense of someone through a collection of highly edited pictures, or a few 3-line tweets. Corporations have swarmed in to take advantage of this growing market of new products. In 2016, the influencer marketing industry was worth around $2 billion, and today it's grown by more than 10 times that amount to over 20 billion. Fake celebrities selling fake products based on a fake lifestyle that nobody's really living. And this has trickled down to affect all areas of society. Dating apps, for example, have turned finding someone into an exercise in marketing and playing a numbers game with Photoshop. They reduce people to their looks and a few basic character traits, and that's only if people are willing to actually read the bio. The system is designed to turn it into any other app, an addictive surface level experience where you barely spend 10 seconds on each distraction. And with how these systems pressure people to judge each other on superficial qualities, it makes it so much worse. People's standards go up based on real people not living up to the fantasy they see online every day. And over time, more and more men fail to make the cut and fall out of the system. Qualities they would have been rewarded for just a few decades ago never get the chance to get noticed after they fail the aesthetics tests or they can't entice people into a 3-line Tinder bio. And that's why a recent study of men aged between 18 and 29 found that over 60% were single, while US marriage rates have hit rock bottom. And this isn't just fueled by the emptiness of modern culture. It's also a product of the ever-present fear of rejection that comes with this world. It's completely natural to be afraid of being left out or being unwanted, and Patrick Bateman exists as the pinnacle of this system. His superficial qualities are rewarded by the society that he lives in. He embodies them so well that he's become a symbol of them. Even when you look deeper into his character and study his motivations to fit in and be accepted, it only reveals more about the modern psyche. Fear of rejection is now all pervasive in our society, egged on by these social media systems. An unlikely example of this is in the Cuts viral show, The Button. What if I told you that your digital identity is being bought and sold? often without your knowledge. You see, data brokers are like digital detectives in the world. They gather information about you from everywhere like online shopping or social media posts. Then, they create a detailed picture of you and sell it to others like advertisers and companies, people who want to explore your data. In a nutshell, it's like someone peeking into your diary and sharing your secrets without you knowing. So data brokers are these behind the scenes folks making money off of your digital life. I mean, I'm sure we've all had that experience, where you look something up on YouTube or online, you like some posts about it, and then the next day your entire feed is covered by that product. And that's why I personally use DeleteMe, because since I use it, I feel like I finally have some control over my online presence. I'm not constantly being watched by these data sharks, as DeleteMe not only helps me identify where my information was listed across the web, but it also took care of all the time-consuming process of requesting removals from various websites. It was so quick and simple, and yet a huge relief, knowing that someone was actively working to protect my personal information. Instead of having data brokers crawling the web, using my information to sell me stuff, I was finally free of these people. DeleteMe is incredibly professional and effective, addressing all of your concerns and make sure that your information is removed from data broker websites and online databases. The subscription fee is just a small price to pay for the enhanced privacy and protection that DeleteMe provides, and I'm truly grateful for the peace of mind it has brought to my digital life. So check out DeleteMe today and get 20% off using my code MOON. That's joindeleteme.com/moon. Mimicking a Tinder-like instant rejection system, contestants are put on first dates with a big red button between them. If one of them presses it when it lights up, they reject the person in front of them and a new person replaces them. Almost immediately, the show devolved into a competition for who can hit the button first, as real connections are rare and seeing two people have a full conversation before one of them hits is even rarer.
I did not say.
Damn, that looks.
She was like,
Only because I'm a gambler, but I do want to talk to you again.
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you, though, regardless.
What made you want to gamble?
Because I get bored fast.
And you could say it might be a great way to get a sense of how things are now. It's reality TV, so it's obviously been cherry-picked for the most dramatic moments, but even these external pressures are very similar to the ones you see on dating apps. Dating apps are also trying to keep the show going for as long as possible and give people the same instant rejection tools. The button isn't popular just because of the premise itself. People see the real world mirrored in its superficial, ineffective, and sometimes cruel methods. Bateman is an extreme expression of these qualities. He's so afraid of his image falling apart or even taking a small dent that it leads him to murder and violence. He's so averse to possibly being rejected that he abuses and ignores his secretary, his wife, and every other woman in his life. Because Patrick Bateman's entire life is defined by the beliefs other people have of him. It's all he cares about, and it's from these qualities that we can understand what Patrick Bateman truly is. He's an extreme expression of the looking glass self. First described by sociologist Charles Cooley, the looking glass self theory poses that the way we form an image of ourselves depends entirely on how we think people see us. As children, we slowly begin to understand our place in the world based on how other people treat us. If you grow up in a supportive environment with a loving family, it will give you a good sense of your own self-worth. If you're abused or spoiled, you'll think less of yourself or think so highly of yourself it borders on narcissism. And this process doesn't just end at childhood. Your self-image is constantly shifting in response to how people treat you, and it changes how you act. You'll slowly mold your own actions to what people expect of you. For most of us, it's one pressure of many, which determines our personality. But for Patrick Bateman, it's everything. His self-worth, his idea of himself, it doesn't even exist. Patrick Bateman is entirely defined by what he thinks his friends think of him. And because all of his friends are only concerned about wealth and status, those are the only things that define him. We know from the film that he only got his job because his father pretty much owns the bank. It means he grew up completely immersed in high society, and it's focused on material wealth. And despite how perfect his life might seem, it could always be better. There's always a better apartment, a fancier restaurant, despite the fact that the real differences are so tiny that they're imperceptible. He's defined by his strive for perfection, but his goal won't ever be achievable. But it's not just Patrick Bateman that's out of touch. His entire world is completely detached. Throughout the movie, Bateman continues to murder people, but he always ends up getting away with it. Even as things escalate, it never catches up to him. And finally, the fakeness of his world, the emptiness, the loneliness, the alienation, completely breaks him down, and he goes on a rampage. And whilst it's debatable whether this is real or not, he tries feeding a vending machine a cat, cars spontaneously explode, Patrick shoots at anyone he sees, getting so frustrated with the society that he's begging to just get caught. The tension builds, but it never gets released. He even tries to confess to his colleagues, but they completely ignore him. He even gets told that one of his supposed victims is alive and well, living out the fake story that Bateman made up for his disappearance. It's his last attempt at recognition, just for one person to acknowledge that he exists.
I killed Paul Allen. I can't make myself any clearer.
But that's simply not possible.
Because I had dinner with Paul Allen twice in London.
But he never finds justice or redemption. Instead, in his own words, it means nothing. Lots of people debate whether the killings actually happened, whether it was all in his head, or if someone was covering for him. There's evidence for both theories. Some of this is clearly in the realm of fantasy. The ATM and the cars exploding, and the fact that he got away with all the murders, does imply that this never really happened, and was all his frustration in his head. But it was never really meant to be the point of the movie, or even a question you really need to ask. Of course, there's a lot of interpretations here, but the lack of reaction to Bateman's violence is completely in line with the world he lives in. Everyone is so self-absorbed, obsessed with their own status, so vapid and plastic that they'll never notice anything outside of their own little bubble. Mirroring the violence, the suffering, and the loneliness that happens today in our own world, no one questions it. You know, you'll have all these woke companies that don't care about their factories in China using slave labor. They will do the exact same thing that Patrick Bateman does. One minute they'll talk about social justice and welfare, eliminating poverty and helping the working man, just like Patrick Bateman does, all while being the worst perpetrators of said violence.
This is the bottom of the supply chain of your iPhone, of your Tesla, of your Samsung. I mean, I'm just naming those companies.
Right.
It's all of them, right? All of them. This is an industrial cobalt mine where there's not supposed to be one artisanal miner. Now, that's the term used for people who are just digging by hand as opposed to tractors and excavators. There's not supposed to be one here.
But this doesn't fully explain why so many men are obsessed with Patrick Bateman himself. Decades after he hit the screens, he's still everywhere. In some ways, you can expect Patrick would be pleased. His appearance and his aesthetic have become synonymous with manliness, the Sigma male grind set, and countless other memes and shitposts. And there's a certain irony that his appearance has somehow outlived his actual character. There's tons of people who know him only through the countless TikToks and memes, but this isn't the root of what makes him so popular today. It helps for sure, but it's not the whole package. Men empathize and are fascinated by Bateman because they understand the world he lives in. Today, our world is even more focused on wealth, greed, and looks than it was in the 80s. The truth is, men love Patrick Bateman because on the surface level, he represents the repression, the hatred, the bubbling anger of so many young men today. His detachment to everything mirrors the way modern society and the digital world alienates us from real life today, and his violence and psychopathy are clear examples of the effects of these pressures. So it's no wonder today why so many men are fascinated with Patrick Bateman. It's like looking into a warped mirror of the modern world.